Desi, you have the quote from him that you mentioned in the book. He says it all seemed effortless. He's talking about the first episode of I Love Lucy. It all seemed effortless, which only goes to prove that it takes a lot of effort to make something look effortless. And I I I was thinking about this for a while the other day where I do think there is a bit of a trap of spontaneity with today's creators where there's this idea that being spontaneous and not preparing somehow unlocks the best of your creativity, and I do think that there are avenues for that. There's improv, there's, there are things where it fits that spontaneity can sort of grace you with these moments of brilliance, but I think for the large part, the great works of art that we recognize as human beings often come from, like, painstakingly brutal work that fleshes itself out over a really long period of time.
Yes, that's a very good insight. And to go back to Oscar Hammerstein and the book I wrote about him and Richard Rodgers, Oscar Hammerstein was a painstaking craftsman and a great example of the benefits of a second draft because you could see his lyrics taking shape for things like The Sound of Music or other shows, and you could see how with each subsequent draft they got finer and better and more compact and more vivid. So spontaneity is great, but carefully engineered spontaneity may be even greater. And
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
one of the things you saw from I Love Lucy is that by the time at the end of every week when they actually committed the show to film, they had worked out a lot of kinks and business that made it better and made it come alive. And Lucy was apparently, one of those performers who, in the beginning, when she first had the table read, she sometimes didn't get the joke or didn't really think this could work, and then she would work through it, and inevitably by the end of the week, it would get better and better, and she would have, produced a work of kind of genius by the end of the week. And I think there's a lot to be said for, as you say, very careful honing of your product.
Yeah, Desi, he mentions that in his tribute to Lucy at the Kennedy Center, the one that he wrote and was read posthumously. He talks about her, like, work to deliver physical comedy in a way that didn't undermine her femininity. And you could watch the show and see that as a spontaneous thing, like, oh, she just has it. But then, you go back and you read the book and you look into, like, the work that actually went into it, and you're like, "Oh, no, like, this was a very much rehearsed effect that she put thousands of hours of work into."
Yeah, and then they both were such good performers that they had to be ready to roll if something happened. Like there's an episode, the famous chocolate episode, where Lucy and Ethel are making the chocolates on the belt and running out of time and stuffing them in their bras and their hats and their mouths and whatever. The flip side of that episode is when Fred and Ricky try to make dinner, and Ricky makes a pound of rice per person, 4 pounds of rice for 4 people, and the rice boils over the stove and goes all over the floor. Well, they had not actually rehearsed that moment with the real rice until they filmed the show, and Desi slipped accidentally on the rice, and he realized that he was getting such a good laugh that before the scene ended, he arranged to slip accidentally on purpose 2 more times, and each one, so there's 2 things. One is having the great, carefully planned, uh, scene, and the other is rolling with the punches when you're doing something live and realizing what will work, and I think they both
Yeah,
were those, they both could take advantage of those
yeah.
moments.